This was years ago, but my mom and dad had gotten divorced, and my mom was struggling to support me and my younger sister. She had a shitty car that was always breaking down, and it had finally quit on her for good. She needed a different car immediately so she could get to work and drive us kids around. And it had to be cheap. So she searched Craigslist for a good deal. She found a 1990 Acura for $2,500. The ad said an older couple had owned it since it was brand new and taken great care of it. They had recently passed away, and it was being sold by their estate. Mom replied to the ad. It sounded good, so my Uncle John went with her to go look at it. They came back home with the car that afternoon. I remember Mom was excited, hoping it would work out so well that she wouldn't have to worry about getting another car for a long time. I also remember her showing us how clean it was and that it smelled like pine sol. The only thing was a huge brownish stain in the driver's seat that Mom couldn't get out no matter how much she scrubbed at it. Everything seemed fine until one night I heard my mom talking to Uncle John on the phone. She sounded upset. She was telling him that she thought someone was following her. A car was driving behind her on the way to work every day. And the same car followed her again most of the way home. It was even in the parking lot when she came out of the grocery store. It made her really nervous, and she didn't know what to do. My uncle suggested she write down the license plate and details about the car, and then report it to the police. After she did exactly that, the car quit following her. But it wasn't long, maybe a week, before she noticed a different car trailing her around town. So, she reported it to the police again. My uncle also changed the locks on our front and back doors. Mom was freaked. Well, the story gets worse. My mom had just gotten to work one day when she got a call from a police officer. He told her that they had a warrant to take possession of her car because it could contain evidence of a crime. She was told to meet him in the parking lot and that a tow truck was on the way. Mom called my Uncle John, who met her there. Sure enough, the cops had the paperwork, gave her a chance to remove her personal belongings, and towed her car away. They told her it wouldn't be returned until the criminal case was over, which could be months or even years, and advised her to get a different vehicle. It was a battle trying to get information from the police, and she was getting bills from both the towing service and the impound lot, which could add up to thousands of dollars. So, my mom got a lawyer. In the meantime, she sold a bunch of our furniture, my Xbox, other things, and also got a second job. She needed the money to get another car and pay the lawyer. It was a hard time for our family, and we didn't do anything wrong. Mom ended up forfeiting the car to the county, and the lawyer got all her fees waived. It came to light later that the police were investigating the death of the elderly couple who had owned the car, but didn't have enough evidence yet to search or impound the car, so they put it under surveillance. That's why Mom thought she had a stalker following her. It was the police in unmarked vehicles. Mom was never suspected of a crime. She was an innocent victim, really, because the people who sold her the car should have disclosed that it was either in an accident or some kind of criminal situation that caused the death of two people. Years later, when I was an adult, Mom told me she suspected that the stain in the driver's seat might have been blood, and that there was a weird, rotten egg smell in the trunk that took weeks to go away, no matter how much she sprayed in there. She also confided that she'd gone to counseling for almost a year to try to deal with what happened. Finances were really stressful, and she needed help coping, but also that her kids were in that car, where she put groceries and other personal items in that trunk, and we didn't even clean it after she bought it. I think the not knowing what happened in that car to that poor couple bothered her the most. The cops couldn't, or wouldn't, tell us any details about that case. It's been years, and we've never heard anything more. But no one in our family will ever buy anything off Craigslist, especially a car. You're taking a big risk. You don't know who or what you might be dealing with. I didn't normally shop for things on Craigslist, but I was getting desperate to find the perfect 25th anniversary gift for my wife. So, I was puttering around on Craigslist in the furniture section, my wife's favorite thing to shop for. I knew she'd been looking for a china cabinet for her grandmother's china. I found the perfect set and couldn't believe my luck. 2 pieces, the buffet cabinet and hutch. The brand was Michael Amini, which is apparently top of the line. The ad wanted $2,000. I did some research, and it was a heck of a steal. I replied to the Craigslist ad, and the lady said we could come to her home that night. I asked my son to come with us, for muscle, because these things were heavy solid wood. Every man knows you don't buy furniture without your wife's approval, especially if it's a gift. So, when my wife got home from work, I told her we were going out to dinner and surprised her instead. My wife loved the furniture. We bought it and brought them home. Happy wife, happy life. It should have been one of the more memorable things I'd done for her. But unfortunately, the story about this furniture gets creepy real fast. My wife planned a formal dinner party for a few friends that weekend, so she could show it off. She was pulling out dishes in preparation for her dinner when she noticed a little groove inside the top of one of the drawers that she hadn't seen before. She stuck her fingers into the groove and was feeling around. Then she gave it a little tug, and to her amazement, it opened up into a secret compartment. Inside was a silver necklace and what looked like a diary. She showed them to me, and we thought about contacting the seller to see if that lady wanted them back. But since my wife was busy with the dinner party, we put the items aside for the time being. Later that night, she checked every drawer and cabinet for hidden compartments. She found 3 more, and all of them had stuff inside. It was like a fun mystery to solve. We couldn't help but be curious. We spread the items out on the dining room table, and it became real clear, real quick, that there was a pattern going on. Most of the items had to do with the occult. The necklace from the first compartment she'd discovered had a pentagram pendant. When we opened the diary, it was actually an instruction manual of sorts called the Devil's Bible. We started going through it but couldn't stomach past the table of contents. There was a small felt bag. Inside were various stones and crystals. Though we aren't rock hounds, we recognized some of them as amethyst and quartz crystal. There was also a small pamphlet called Colors Are Energies. It described the magical meanings behind different colors of stones. Not so creepy, but still telling. There was incense, a witch's spell booklet, a set of handmade rune stones, a spooky-looking doll, and some other things that really upset my wife. It seemed obvious to us that the owner of these items was either experimenting with or practicing in the occult. My wife put everything into a cardboard box and shoved it into the back of the cabinet without another word. Then she poured a glass of wine and guzzled it. I remember that clearly because my wife hardly ever drank alcohol. We never contacted the lady we bought the furniture from. She'd taken her Craigslist ad down, and the only way to reach her was to drive to her house. Anyway, if those things were hers, we didn't think she would have forgotten to remove them. And it would be awkward. Like, hey, did you leave your Devil's Bible in the china cabinet? From that day forward, there was an ominous cloud over our heads. Like the furniture brought a sinister quality into our home. The box containing the items was a haunting reminder. I kept telling my wife to throw it away, but she felt like that would be bad karma. She was avoiding the cabinets, I could tell. She didn't even dust them. So, finally, I suggested we get rid of them. She agreed without hesitation. She put all the items back into the hidden compartments, packed up her dishes, and I put it up for sale on Craigslist for the same price, $2,000. I suspect this is exactly what happened with the lady that sold us the furniture. She bought it from somebody, found the hidden compartments, and wanted it out of her house. That's why I got such a good deal, and that's why the guy who bought it from us a week later got such a good deal. Maybe it's silly. It's just furniture. Very creepy furniture. I bought my wife a new china cabinet at an actual furniture store. And it still feels really good in our house, years later. Nothing creepy about it. There is no deal good enough that will ever buy anything on Craigslist again. I was looking to buy a motorcycle a while back. I found the one I wanted posted on Craigslist late one night after work, at about 9 p.m. I emailed the seller, and he was still online and said I could still go and see it if I came soon. So I went and met the guy to take a test ride. As any responsible seller would do, he asked for cash in hand before he gave me the keys, and he asked to see my license to make sure I had my M endorsement. Otherwise, I wasn't getting on the motorcycle. Everything was good. I told him I'd be back the next day and we could hammer out all the details. You know, title, bill of sale like that. Well, the next day, the guy says he can't meet. He's getting called into work. I'm sad, but no biggie. If he's still interested in selling, I can wait a day. The next morning, at about 9 a.m., he calls and says, "Hey, man, I'm going to be in the area today. Would you just want me to bring the bike by?" And I'm stoked. That means I don't have to call my insurance before I can ride it home legally. We continued talking, and I said, "Hey, don't you need my address?" After thinking about it for a moment, he said, "Nah, I remember it from when you showed me your license." Well, I thought that's a little odd. So, he shows up at my house with the bike at about 10 a.m., 2 days after I'd gone to look at it. Dude is being super nice, and we're chatting about motorcycles. Then he says he forgot the title at his house. He'll go back and get it, and then we do a bill of sale. His wife followed him in his truck. I figured that would be fine. I offered to go ahead and give him the money. Bad idea. I know I was 19 at the time. He says, "Well, man, why don't you give me half of it? That's $2,000 and I'll get the rest when I get back with the title." Seems fair, so I let him go. So, I go wait patiently inside my house as the guy goes to retrieve the title. The guy isn't back within the hour, as he'd said he'd be. Probably got sidetracked. I wait another hour, and I'm nervous. So, I called him. No answer. I wait another hour, and I'm getting really creeped out. The guy just left this motorcycle here. Why? Then things got really weird. 2 police officers show up at the house I'm renting. They bang on my door. I answer, dumbfounded. "Is that your motorcycle in the driveway, sir?" They ask. I started to explain the situation. After telling them that the guy will be back soon with the title, they say, "Well, sir, this bike was reported stolen 2 days ago. The person who reported it stolen said he drove by here and saw it and called us. Did you steal this motorcycle?" I'm freaking out. No, I didn't steal it. I tell them again what the situation is. I give them the guy's phone number. He doesn't answer them either. They called another officer to my house. As they're waiting on backup and getting my information, they say we have recorded video from the owner of someone getting on this bike and riding away late Sunday evening. Do you know anything about that? I say I don't, then say, well, I went and test rode this Sunday night, but the owner was there. I can give you his address. And they seem interested. I gave them the address. They talk amongst themselves for a moment as I'm sitting on my front stairs. They come back to me. "Sir, the address you gave us belongs to the original owner of the motorcycle who reported it stolen." It begins to make sense. I'm being framed for theft. I ask if I can see the video of the bike being stolen. They say that I can if I come down to the station with them. So I go. No handcuffs, but I'm in the back of a police cruiser. I ask the cop who's driving if he can get the guy who reported it stolen to come down too. They say that the guy isn't answering his phone. I ask if it was the phone number I gave them, and they say no. Dude must have had a burn phone or something. We arrive at the precinct. I get taken to this cop's desk. He asks me a few questions, then asks me to watch the video. It's on a CD. He pulls it up. Sure enough, it's me getting on this guy's bike. But the guy isn't in the frame. It was then it really became clear to me how detailed this whole facade was. The guy had the bike around the back of his house, but we spoke around front and I parked my car around front. The bike had the keys in it already. When I brought the bike back, I left it around in front of his house, per the guy's request. Because of this, the video showed me getting on a bike at 10 p.m. with the keys in the ignition, pulling it out and seemingly never bringing it back. He even managed to stay out of frame, and aside from a couple glances in his direction, I don't seem to be interacting with anyone off camera. I'm really screwed here. I'll sum it up after spending the entire day at the local police station. The guy shows up and starts asking if I'm the guy who stole his bike. The situation got worse for me until the police managed to make the guy slip up. He couldn't keep his story straight. He had initially claimed to never have spoken to or seen me before, but I had told the police I had an email from the guy. It was a throwaway email account that he'd been using, and he provided them with a different personal email address when asked about the one I showed police. But one of the emails he sent to me had his home address in it, and it had the number for the burn phone he'd been using. Plus, I'd already showed the police that I'd called that number at 9:45 p.m. the evening of the theft, and once each day over the next 2 days. Busted, right? But that didn't stop the guy. He then tried to claim he was being set up, and that I had an accomplice. But that is where he really got caught. He had already admitted to putting the bike up for sale via a Craigslist ad. He had shown the police the ad, claiming I used the info in the ad to find him and steal his bike. But if he and I had never been in contact with one another, how did I get a response from my accomplice after replying to an ad that he openly admits to posting himself? He then tried to say he had forgotten about the email correspondence he'd had with me, and tried to say that I didn't show up to look at the bike that evening, and he went to bed, and I stole the bike while he was asleep. But I'm on video test, riding the bike at 10 p.m., and our correspondence via email ended at 9:25, with me saying I'd be there around 9:45 or 10. And his story has now changed twice. I don't know how long after he confessed. Also, I don't know the actual conversation that led to the discovery of all this, just what was relayed to me by the officers who spoke to me after the guy had confessed. He couldn't keep his story straight. He breaks down and admits that he made it all up. He needed the money to pay some bills, but couldn't bear to sell his bike, so he set up a plan to make an insurance claim for someone stealing his motorcycle, but then created a plan to keep the bike, get some money from a buyer who would be framed as a thief, and all would end well for him. Except it didn't. I think he ended up going to prison. I'm not sure. I got my money back and put the whole ordeal behind me. So there. That's my creepy Craigslist story. If you are enjoying the videos on my new channel and would like to see more, please like, subscribe, and comment below. I also encourage you to send in your well-written true stories. I will continue to keep bringing you the very best true story videos. Thank you.